We are live on the Making of a Marketer. Happy Tuesday. I was about to say Thursday, man. That's where I'm at right now, Jess. We usually do record on Thursdays, so we've been mixing it up a little bit. But it's been a second, Jess. How you been doing? World of AI, marketing moving fast. Summer's hit. Is there another Disney trip coming up? We got to catch up and just work through everything that's been going on lately.
We need to catch up. Things have been moving really quickly. I am actually going in for my surgery on Friday to remove a massive kidney stone.
You did mention that. Yes.
Yes. I told you about that, but I literally, this is turning around so quick. Finally met with the urologist last week, and I can't wait any longer. She's got to get me in. So she got me in this week. So I will be on medical leave all next week, Andy. I know these are all the updates. And Fun fact, this is all relevant. Today is National Hydration Day. So my biggest takeaway from all of this and this experience, since I've never dealt with it before and my family hasn't either, drink lots of water.
Yeah. Well, we're sending you all good wishes. Glass half full, Jess. I know this is not, at least from what my knowledge as an outsider, this is kind of an in and out surgery, but it's more the aftermath, correct? That takes more of the time.
Well, yes, and it's a little bit of both. This is actually a more of a comprehensive surgery than I expected, but it's all good because I'm in a position right now. We don't want to be in the emergency position where something tries to move and then I'm in the ER. So got to get it taken care of.
Yes, no $3,000 ambulance rides. I've only had to do one of those in my career. So we can talk about that later. But Jess, I'll definitely be texting, sending thoughts. And then for our listeners too, send your thoughts because it's never fun. Regardless, big, small, medium surgeries, hospitals aren't fun. I think we can all agree on that point. Today, we're going to talk about an interesting subject that is fun for some, stressful for others. Some are like, what in the heck do I do? And that's why we are bringing on Gino Barbero. He is a certified money coach, multifamily investor, and he is on the LinkedIn circuit, really talking about both financial planning, things that are happening kind of in real time, but bringing it together at a very human level. So we're going to bring this into a lot of a big marketing conversation, but also what I would call a large life conversation, Gino. So we're super excited to have you on today, and welcome to the Making of a Marketer.
It's interesting, guys. Thanks for having me on. As Jessica's telling me the story about the kidney stone and the pain that she's going through, that's what most people feel like when they think about money. It's like a big pain. They want to avoid it. They keep pushing it off. And then all of a sudden, if they don't deal with it, they end up in the emergency room. And hopefully today we can shed some light on how we can avoid that scenario.
So we're going to start off here first. And this is a way here. I start thinking about this. You may have one of the best answers for this question, because if I'm using AI for financial advice right now, I feel like I could end up in the emergency room depending on which AI I'm trusting. So season 4 of the podcast, Gino, the question that we've asked everybody as we enter our episode is, in a world of AI, how are you staying authentic on a day-to-day basis, both delivering optimal abilities to your clients, but just yourself too, as you're kind of upskilling in this new speed that everybody's running on?
I think the benefit to me when I use AI is to optimize something. If I write something down, I would love to get AI to help me out. Hey, listen, I had a through line for this podcast. I wrote down my notes. I looked at AI and I said, AI, just give me like a couple sentences on how I can bring value to your guys' audience. And what AI told me was marketing generates leads and interest. Sales turns these leads into customers. That's what AI can do. It can simplify my help. It can actually optimize and save me a lot of time and distill these amazing, immense thoughts into something that's very simple. That's something that's very digestible for me to use. That's how I've been using AI. Now, if we get into the technical side with business, there's automations, there's processes, there's systems that you can use. You can use AI as a coach, as a tool to help you out. But for me, ultimately, it's just trying to simplify my life and trying to hold me accountable to what I'm trying to accomplish that day.
Gino, I love this. I'm really curious to know throughout this process and how it's quickly evolving, is there anything that you've stopped doing recently with AI because it no longer feels authentic?
Well, that's a great question. I was actually considering using AI and 11 Labs and all these other avenues to start creating an abundance of content, like put out my voice and put out like all these videos where I'm not actually shooting them myself, but having AI create it. And I'm like, that would be great because you want to quote unquote flood the market, right? That's what marketing, you're trying to get as many reels out there,
Mhm.
but it just didn't feel right for my brand. I am not the quantity person. I want to be authentic. I want to jump on here and talk about kidney stones and have emotions and let
Mhm.
my emotions come out. And I don't think AI can do that yet. It may, but it didn't feel right to me. We're using the AI tool. And for some people, it works really well. Listen, I have a book that I just wrote, and I'm having my son create the audio from the book using AI. And it's actually done a rather good job. So I can give those 3 chapters away for free. I think that's a good way for me to use it. But for me to get on there and have AI rip out some content and slap something together and go, that may work for some, but I'm really trying to protect the brand that we're creating and to have authenticity, honesty, transparency, and then say I've got this AI automated stuff. It doesn't feel right to me, Jessica.
So, Gina, let's dig back now into where you're at currently. So, you have a career as a business owner, founder, financial leader. Tell us how this all comes about. And in today's conversation, we're really going to lean into both the financial side and also really how you've marketed as a business owner and built such a great stature. So, kind of take us through the process of your career and how you've gotten to here today.
Well, if we zoom out, I started out as a restaurant owner a long time ago, over 30 years ago. Started it with my family, 2 immigrant parents, big time savers, a lot of scarcity around money, a lot of fear around money. I'm telling you, it's going to lead up to where I am today and how I've become a money coach. Through that process, we did really well. First 15 years of business. 2008 comes and we all feel this seismic shift. We don't understand what's going on, but the Great Recession really resets small businesses, and all of a sudden we go global. The internet starts taking over. Mom and pops have to we have to start competing with others. In the restaurant space, all of a sudden food starts changing. We started having Panera and these lower cost options. All of a sudden, these Pizza Huts and all starting to compete with me. My margins are starting to shrink, and I'm saying I'm working harder. I'm making less. I've got 4 kids at the time. And I'm like, I need to find something else. Back then, we called it a side hustle, right? It was a side gig. I just wanted a second job. I picked real estate. I started investing in real estate, and I found my business partner, Jake, at the restaurant. He was a pharmaceutical rep back in 2009. We all remember what happened in the pharmaceutical industry when they started downsizing. So him and me, we got together. We just started buying real estate, and we were fortunate. Picked the right time, market was low, we started buying these properties. And at some point in that whole evolution in 2018 or 19, we started running out of our own money. And that's where the marketing comes into play, where we get into a space called the syndication space, where you need to start raising capital from investors. And it's not just the raising of the capital, you're creating a separate brand, a separate entity from just the real estate space. Now you have a multifamily, a syndication business where you really need to focus on the branding, on the imaging, on the messaging, because you need to start raising that capital. From there, we create an education community that helps us with the branding, that allows us to raise millions of dollars through our books, through our podcasts, through our community. And today, I've really gotten into the financial space, into the money coaching space, because I've seen that there's a lot of people out there that get into this business world and they close deals. And you say to yourself, how did that person close a deal? They had no money, they had no experience, but they did it. And on the other hand, there's this other person who's got a great balance sheet. They look great on paper, all the credibility in the world, and they can't close a deal. They're blaming everybody. And to me, it boiled down to, what's their relationship with money? What are their beliefs, their patterns, their behaviors that they have adopted unconsciously from childhood? and brought it into their adulthood. And if we can explore that and we can reveal that, all of a sudden we can make conscious decisions. We can become the responsible one, the one who says, I don't want to act like that 8-year-old who was told he couldn't afford it. I can be this adult now that can make these conscious decisions and start changing our behaviors. So metamorphosis for me, to really put a bookend on the question, was, going in the restaurant space, becoming a real estate, entrepreneur, then getting into the education space, and now really getting into the coaching space. That's been my journey and my through line throughout.
Oh, I love your origin story. It's really powerful. And
Jess, we'll have you reframe the question when you come out of Frozen. Just set it up now.
Okay. Question for you, Gino. Love the origin story. I want to know, what's the financial advice that you keep hearing over and over that you do not agree with?
That is a great question, Jess. For me, it's not so much the financial advice. It's the advice that a financial planner gives to someone, and then all of a sudden that person doesn't act upon that financial advice, and the financial planner is scratching their head and going, well, I gave you the advice. I mean, financial planning is pretty much basic math. It's 1 + 1 is 2. And why isn't that person acting upon my plan? It's such a great plan, when in reality, that financial planner hasn't really taken the time to sit down with an Andy or a Jessica and really learned about their past, learned about what we call a financial flashpoint, money memories, these money emotions that we have as a child that really affects our adulthood, that really, what is your ultimate goal? Because I can work out any portfolio, we can work out any kind of strategy, very similar to marketing, but you need to understand the underlying behavioral patterns that a person has that unconsciously is running in the foreground without them knowing it. So you can create a great plan. You can tell them 60-40 stocks, bonds, maybe you want 10% in real estate. None of that really matters if the person is not bought into the plan and doesn't understand how his relationship with money is actually affecting his decisions that he or she is making today.
Gino, let's talk about that a little bit, because you do give this advice, obviously, on your LinkedIn profile, a solid 18,000 followers on your LinkedIn. So you've got a great following there where you're able to give this advice. And what's always nice about that is it's almost like a preview. Like, it's almost like the free advice to lead you towards the more, in the weeds advice. That said, I can go on to LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, and type in financial advice, and I'm sure you've seen this too, and you're just flooded with stuff. Mm-hmm. So what is the method right now when you look at this online space where there's people giving out all kinds of different advice? Is there certain subgenres I should be looking for? How am I picking the right angle, the right person to follow? And, most importantly, we can loop this back to you, how has it been you and how has this worked for you?
That's another great question. If you would allow me 2 minutes to just share the framework that I have as far as investing, what an investor looks like, because it's really hard to follow a certain person or certain entity, depending on where you are in your journey. I think when I make this analogy, it'll all make sense. And then I can say, well, what stage you're in, then I can offer a person in that stage. Obviously, everyone loves the Dave Ramsey's of the world because it's basic financial advice. It's middle-class advice. It's pretty easy. Unfortunately, Dave Ramsey didn't create his millions by following his advice because he's got a ton of debt. He's bought real estate. He's created businesses. So for me, that's just low level. Think of a contractor. You're a contractor. You're building a home. So with a home, there's a scope of work. You need a set of plans. The contractor needs to start with a strong foundation. That's stage one. When you're thinking about financial planning, stage one is creating the emergency plan, the emergency, budget. You need to have money set aside to think about the relationship you have with money, your money bio, all of those things that have been holding you back, those beliefs that you have, really to start educating yourself on all of the different vehicles. Right now, if you're going to start building your house, you can't go buying a business. That's stage 4. What's going to happen? What happens if the foundation is not strong enough? You may make money in the short term, but when the market shifts, or if we start a war in Iran, or if interest rates go up, that house is going to crumble. And it's the same thing with the contractor. If he doesn't go deep enough and he doesn't build enough strong enough foundation, that's what's going to happen. So that stage one is really all about reinforcing the your budgeting, your education, setting the plan. Stage two, you're framing the house. All of a sudden, you're seeing the house go up. This is the area where you start talking a little bit more about budgeting and possibly investing in stocks, ETFs. You're dipping the toe in the water, right? You start thinking about what cash management looks like. You're starting to build the business muscles, right? Because you've already done stage one. Now you're at stage two. Now from stage two, the framing is up. Stage three is the windows, the doors, the siding, and the roof. That's when we start talking about insurance and protecting whatever assets you're starting to create. You can't protect assets. You can't worry about that in stage one because you have nothing to protect. But at least in stage one, you should be thinking about this in stage three. So in stage three, you're talking about asset protection, life insurance, health insurance, renters insurance, homeowners, whatever, umbrella. That's what you're thinking about in this stage. In stage three, once you've accomplished stage three, you've got a pretty good grasp of it. Now let's go to stage four. You're looking at the mechanicals of the house, plumbing, AC. You're looking at that. Stage four has all to do with buying businesses, buying cash flowing real estate, investing in alternative assets, e-com stores, Airbnbs. See, if you go to stage four and you don't have stage one or stage two completed, you're going to crap out. That's why it's very hard for me to give somebody advice on going to a person in short-term rentals if you don't understand what a balance sheet or income statement is, if you don't have the proper asset protection, if you don't have proper money set aside so you can go take that risk. Stage four is where all of a sudden you've accumulated this knowledge, this experience, you have some money set aside, you can start taking risks. This is money in stage four where you can lose. You can lose money in this stage because you have money set aside. You have something to fall back upon. Stage five is the sexy part. Stage five is where you have the landscaping, you have the lighting, the fixtures, everything is getting buttoned up. In this stage, you've already created wealth. You've already got a business running. You already have a couple assets producing. This is where you're going to start talking about estate planning, legacy, asset protection. Now, it doesn't mean to say that in stage three, you shouldn't be looking at these and viewing these. But in stage three, when you're building your insurance, you're not going to worry about stage five. You're going to learn about it, but you're not going to focus on it. To me, focusing on all of these different stages only ensures that you're building the house in the proper order and that it's strong enough to withstand, in Florida here, a hurricane, a devastating damage, or, in literal sense, in the marketing sense, in business, a downturn, higher interest rates, slow down the economy. If that all happens, you have the experience and the foundation to at least withstand what happens. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, Gino, you are a marketer. This is the observation I'm making here.
Yep.
There's definitely a through line. We always say that as marketers, to be the most effective in our role, we need to show our customers, our end users, that they're seen, heard, and deeply understood. And it just seems like your analogy with the foundation of the house and building the home, it's really a fantastic way to help people understand themselves, understand why they're making decisions, and be less confused in this world where there's lots of confusion.
And that's why I didn't want to not answer Andy's question, but sometimes it's difficult to answer the question because we're all different. We all come from different experiences. We come from different equity positions. We come from different, goals. Somebody who wants to work for the next 40 years is good, okay, by doing a 401k and investing in retirement plans. That plan sucks for me. I had my money in retirement funds. I withdrew that money when I was at stage four, and I invested that equity into real estate. It was a no-brainer for me. But that would be, for me, irresponsible to tell somebody to do that if they don't have the proper experience, the proper knowledge, the proper goals, the proper values. All of that plays into, I think, when we're talking about financial planning and trying to set up a plan for somebody.
You know, an interesting thing on that concept, Gino, I actually had a great talk with a financial advisor a couple of years ago. So, like, you know, myself, I'll be like, straight up, I'll say, like, I've probably, like, gotten into the we're almost getting to like the four, but spent most of my early career in the one, you know. So it's like you kind of like listen to these people, you know what you don't know, you can't really afford financial advisors, so you're just like listening to a lot of stuff, and like you hit on the default we hear about all the time: put the money into the 401k. So it almost feels almost taboo when you're at a certain age, like, hey, if I start putting less into that and start putting in other places, is this the right move? So we finally got to the point where we could get that real estate. And I was asking the advisor, I was like, hey, like if we have to start putting as much less into retirement, but we do have the flexibility to get into that real estate, is this the right move? And they were saying yes. Like, especially they look at the area we were in. I was happy to say that that move ended up being a strong one because our real estate in 1.5 years is up over 25% already on the value we got it for. So there's no 401k that's going to make that kind of money. So like what I'm trying to say is just that advice you gave right now to me just a handful of years ago was extremely powerful for us to make that right decision and not pay 25% more down the line. We just had to find the right moment.
And you have the right financial planner, because I see a lot of financial planners don't look at a person as a holistic plan. Like, take the whole plan. They're only looking at products to sell you, whether it's life insurance products, whether it's putting money into stocks, money into bonds. They're worried more about assets under management than Andy's life, right? If for me, taking some of it now, I would say maybe on your first venture, not take all of your retirement funds and put it into real estate. But
Yeah.
why not? I think for you at a certain level, at your certain maturation, when you're saying, hey, I want to strike out and I want to get into real estate, well, then there's a path for you to do that. And I think what he did was great. He looked at what you had, he analyzed it, and then you're there to probably tell him, you know what, I'm not really so worried about retirement, because some people may look at retirement and go, I don't want to really retire. I want to slow down, but I still want to contribute. I still want to work. Well, does that person need a ton of retirement funds? Because when they get to a certain age, at a certain age, you need to withdraw those funds. And you're not paying taxes on the seed when you put money in, you're taking taxes on the harvest when you are retired. And 10, 15, 20 years from now, I can almost guarantee taxes are going to be higher, and you're probably going to be in a lower tax bracket because you have less deductions when you're older. So all of this goes into play. That's why it's really important to sit down with a financial planner, sit down with your spouse, have an honest conversation and say, this is really what we want the next 10, 20, 30 years of our lives. Imagine Andy sitting on the porch 30 years from now going, this is what I want my life to look like. I want to have these people in my life. I want to have this money in the bank. I want to have this type of job. I want to be living here. I want to be traveling. Whatever that looks like to you, let's reverse engineer that. And from this point on, you set the goal to achieve that picture in your life.
Okay. I have so many questions. I love this conversation. Gino, I'm really curious to hear from you, whether it's from your experience as an entrepreneur, as a financial coach, as a marketer. How do you know when it's worth taking a risk or playing it safe?
That's a very challenging question. You know, in applied behavioral finance, there's a topic called loss aversion. I mean, people are more fearful of losing $100 than they are of gaining $100. And we've all had that loss aversion. I had it early on because I made a couple of really bad decisions. I had something called overconfidence. In applied behavioral finance, overconfidence is you do something really well, you're a marketer, you have one great campaign go out, all of a sudden, I'm a marketing genius. I know what I'm doing. I'm opening up my own agency.
Yep.
And then 6 months later, you're like, well, I suck. I wasn't that good. I just got lucky. It's the same thing in real estate and business. And I think we have to be guarded against that. It's really interesting. I think for me, it comes down to experience and just being in the game long enough. And just what I said, that's that level one. I remember for a couple of years of doing some really bad deals, I really need to go back and get into mentorship. I needed to learn the business of real estate because I didn't know it. And then from there, I got mentors. I remember on my very first deal, I was on a call with my mentor every other week, asking for different docs, different sheets. What am I missing? And AI can help with that, but AI just misses the nuances. AI is not really creative in the types of questions I can answer or the things that it may miss. So get on with somebody who has the experience. Look at it as an investment. And that's what really helped me. And then all of a sudden, you start creating a framework. Another marketing ploy that we have. We have a 3-step framework in multifamily real estate. We call it the buy right, the operate, and the exit. For us, every deal that we look at it through that lens. What type of deal are we buying? How are we buying it? The operate is the management portion of the deal. How are we going to manage the operations? And the exit of the deal is, oh, now we've bought this deal. We've got to ultimately at one point sell or refinance this deal. What does that look like? So for me, learning that framework has really helped me become a much better investor in real estate. And as our president today says in his book, The Art of the Deal, if you can limit your downside, the upside will take care of itself. And that's what all we're trying to do in real estate and business. There's always going to be risk, but we're trying to mitigate the downside risk by understanding all these different frameworks and by understanding that we have weaknesses. Our applied behavioral, financial way we act, our biases can come into play. Uncovering those biases and saying, well, is this my best interest? What has my experience told me? That will allow you, in my opinion, to become a much more effective. There's always chances that you can make a mistake, but that to me will really help you mitigate your downside risk.
Let's talk about the blending. You've hit on this already a little bit, Gino. When you're blending all this together, so the money mindset, the growth, the macros we're looking at, family decisions. You want to get in that house, you're starting a family, you're looking at what that growth is, and in 2026, you're looking at how much is all this going to cost? We make the joke in our household a lot because we're newly married. We call it the expense of having kids. So we make the joke of that being a line item, if you will, if we were to do that in the future. But also business decisions. You talk a lot about starting businesses, doing the different things. So there's a lot of things happening right here. There's a lot of different directions to go. And I think you hit on there's not one right way for every single family or every single person. So whether it's your book or your expertise in talking to your clients, your individuals, how have you thought about putting all of these together? And what is the strategy that makes it right for someone when you're advising them?
Another great question. To me, it would always falls back upon your values. We call it values-based decision-making. Your values are different than Jessica's, and they're different than mine. And believe it or not, your values may be different than your spouse's. So what you should do right now, if you're listening to this, just sit back and just think about what your values are. And if you're like, I don't really know, just think of something that happened in your childhood, because your values, believe it or not, they're sort of formed in your young formative years between the ages of 8 and 15 years old. I mean, if I take myself as an example, and I think of myself when I was young, I went to work with my dad. He owned the restaurant. I learned how to work hard. I ultimately wanted to become a mentor, help others. I became a small business owner. I love working with my family. I love working in a tight-knit community. I really love my employees. All of those values came from my childhood. Now, every decision that I make today, whether it's money, whether it's family, all has to lean upon my values, which are responsibility, their control. I want to have control of my destiny. I want to be able to have that integrity. I want to have faith imbued in that. So all of those decisions are going to be led through my values. If you don't know them, or if you make a decision and it goes wrong and you have this bad feeling, it usually means that it didn't align with the values and you didn't know. But Andy, what I would do if you're newly married, or if anybody's out there who has a spouse, start having that conversation. Get to know your spouse before you marry them. Get to know their money story. Get to know what happened to them. I mean, for myself and my wife, we were completely different. I came from immigrant parents who stressed business, who stressed saving, who stressed the future, who stressed creating goals. Don't waste anything, because if you waste something, you may not have it. Whereas my wife grew up in a single family household. There were 3 kids. They live week to week. Rich people were greedy, and she marries this entrepreneur. And then all of a sudden, we start having battles about money, when in reality, it's not the battles about money itself. To me, it's more about the values and what we place money. And it ultimately, really ended up putting a lot of strain on the relationship until we had these conversations. Well, I see, what money means to you and to your family. How do we come together, and how do we create a goal that will actually satisfy both of our, both of our value systems? Let me give you one quick example. When we got married early on, my wife wanted to buy everything organic. Now, this is over 25 years ago. So this is like, dude, I got to buy $7 for Fig Newtons when I could buy the regular ones for $2.50. Well, to me, it was more about, let's save the money because I'm trying to save for my kids' college, remember? And to her, it's like, no, health is so important. Her dad was this high-level doctor, this chiropractic, kinesiologist. I'm like, oh. And I finally understood, she's right, because health is one of the most important things. So I had to come to the grasp of what's more important, saving money for college or actually taking care of us today, which will help us in the future. Those are honest conversations, and we can get triggered because I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to save. But at the same time, I mean, our values really led us to believe that, hey, health is important. Nutrition's important. So that's how you can start having these conversations and let the other person speak. Right? Seek first to understand the other side, then to be understood. And if we can do that, especially as marketers, we can make a ton of money doing that, and we can actually solve the problems.
I want Gino both for a life coach and a marketing coach right now, because we're going to have this discussion at the end of the episode, so don't get us too off the rails here. But so much of this is happening in the marketing room right now, not just marriages, but there's so much that has changed in terms of what is asked out of marketers. What are the goals in the world of AI? A lot of sell, move fast, move fast, move fast. But have we stopped to even learn what the values are of everybody in the room? Are they communicating what the values are? Are you designing a product and a strategy that can ensure that each person's values are seen? And if they aren't, does that get the optimal strength out of what you're trying to do? So I think a lot of these just general life questions, they also apply so much into what we see day to day.
Very astute observation. I love how you actually put that all together, because I'm creating a new company called Barbaro 360. It's with my family. We rushed to the marketplace because we thought what we knew. And then all of a sudden we're marketing to a crowd that really doesn't know our message. Our message is confusing. Instead of saying to ourselves, let's pull back, let's really think about what our core values are, what our mission statement is, what we want people to feel when they hear Barbaro 360 and they see Barbaro 360. Let's not worry about the strategy or the funnels or the techniques we're going to get to people. We want to get the right butts and seats, and that does take time. AI could possibly help you with that, but it's always beautiful when you can sit down with somebody who is in the marketing space and they can ask you the right questions, because ultimately, Andy and Jessica, we all have the questions, the answers inside of us. Mm-hmm. Those right questions will be able to pull out what the messaging and what the feel of the company is. And once you get that done, then I think AI and marketing and funnels can help amplify that message, but you just don't want to amplify the wrong message.
Oh, Gino, you're speaking my language. I always frame it, or at least when I start, frame it around the feeling. Mm-hmm. What are they feeling, thinking, believing? And okay, let me try to tie this together, because I want to know more from you about this. I think you can help people bust this myth, just in general, in business, that we make decisions with our rational brain.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we make decisions emotionally. Mm-hmm. So how do you get people to that place where they can understand that, and actually where emotions can be tied to financial decisions, entrepreneurial decisions, and marketing decisions?
I personally think that emotions play a role, because I need to be excited. I'm excited on this podcast right now. If there's no emotion to it, then you're not going to take action. I think you need it. The problem is that most people are filled with emotions, and that's their overriding system. I mean, the brain is three parts. You have you have the croc brain, the really primitive brain. Then you have the emotional or the limbic part. Then you have the neocortex. And unfortunately, I can talk about it when we're presenting to an investor. I am presenting an opportunity to you. I am presenting from my neocortex, from my rational brain, right? My analytical brain. But I think I am presenting to your neocortex when in reality, I am presenting to your croc brain. And the primitive brain is saying, is this something different? Is this something interesting? Because if it isn't, I'm just going to shut you off. I think that person's really making me bored. The croc brain wants something different, wants movement. And if you can do that as a marketer, make something interesting, not talk about cap rates and cash on cash returns. I see both of you glazing over. That's the neocortex. That's what's making it boring. You're going to shut me off. You're going to sound like the used car salesman. So what you want to do is you want your croc brain to pitch to that person's croc brain to get them interested. And then you can bring some emotions into it. And then once their emotions are there and you have a high level of emotions, or you make them excited about the product, then you can talk about the features and benefits of the product. But ultimately, within that pitch, you need to talk about the solution that you're trying to solve. And what you're also trying to do is you're also trying in the very beginning, as an investor trying to raise capital, you really want to build rapport and learn what the other side is. Learn if this investment is good for them, right? I mean, we're all assuming, hey, but you need to gather some information about that person before you make the pitch. And if it's not for them, you've just done a great service to them, because, hey, this product is not for you, Andy. I see that real estate is not on your list right now. It's really risky. I wouldn't want you to get into it. But Andy, if you have anybody in your world that is ready to get into real estate, please give me a referral.
I'll remember you. Yeah.
That's exactly how you should do it, because you should always be considering your customer. And if it's not a right fit for them, then you should not be promoting whatever you're trying to sell. You want to solve their problem. And if you can't solve their problem, that's okay. Go out and find somebody else who you can solve the problem for.
So I want to really end our discussion today on a big one that will relate back to the marketers, Gino. And you hit on this a little bit at the beginning. So there's marketers that we know have done this. I've worked for several different marketing agencies prior to my current stop here, of course, at LinkedIn. I also have talked to a lot of people on the side. I try to get a vibe. What's your dream as a marketer? And I would say, Jess, if I were just making up a number, I'd say 50% would say I would love to just start my own thing. I love to be a marketing agency, a consultant. I'd love to just run my own business and then be the CMO of that business. There's so many thoughts. People to say they would love to do their own thing, but they feel the risk is too high to go off and do their own thing. And you hit on this a little bit, Gino, right here. So I'm curious, for those marketers that are listening right now, and they're saying, you know what, if I could just do this and start my agency, if I could just do this and start my business, what are the cues or what are the steps, if they're at a very early stage right now, what are the steps they need to be thinking about right now? If this isn't a reality next year, how is it a reality within the next decade for them?
Andy, I'd like to start out by saying that there's risk in everything. If you're employed or if you have a small business like a restaurant, guess what? You can always go out of business. COVID proved that to me. I got out of the restaurant space in 2016. If I had stayed and I had continued the business in 2020, I would have effectively been shut down. So as everyone was telling me that real estate is risky, any venture is risky. That's the reality. And for me, hearing it from my mother saying, well, you can't invest in real estate. You've got 5 mouths to feed. Anybody hearing this, right? I'm sure a lot of people have heard that advice, and that may be true, but there's risk in everything you do. Now, if you want a framework on what I did to get into the real estate space full time, it's the same thing that a marketer would do. The first thing is to understand it's not going to be easy. There is going to be effort in this. The second thing is, do you truly want that? Do you truly want to go on your own? That's important. I had a burning desire to get out of the restaurant business because I knew there was no future for me. There was no hope. There was no way for me to generate and to build sustainable generational wealth with one location. I couldn't scale the business. So I had a burning desire to find another business that I could do that in. Do you have that if you're going to build it? The third step is, this is the great news. You don't have to do it overnight. You can take a systematic approach. You can burn the ships, but figuratively in your mind, and say, I'm all in, and continue to work where you're working. Continue to put capital aside because you're going to need capital, and continue to work the venture. And at a certain point, you may want to pull, as we say, just pull the lever and jump in. It took me 5 years from the time that I started investing with my business partner, Jake, to actually leaving the space. Now, 5 years seems like a long time, but COVID happened over 6.5 years ago. If we put that into retrospect, 5 years goes by so quickly. We overestimate what we can do in 1 year, and we underestimate what we can do in 3 or 5 years. That's the reality. You really need to also, to end it, put a little book note on this bad boy. You need to adopt the identity of a marketer. You need to adopt that identity of an entrepreneur as a marketer. I had to do that as a multifamily investor. I wasn't just the pizza guy anymore. I needed to say, I'm this multifamily guy, because a multifamily guy calls brokers, does property tours, speaks to investors, underwrites deals, starts a podcast, writes a book. If you identify as that, you're going to start taking those actions, not when it feels okay or it feels right, because it doesn't feel okay, especially early on. But if you can start adopting that mentality and taking your time, give yourself the grace. It doesn't have to happen overnight. Small, continuous progress over the next 90 days, you'll be amazed at where you are 90 days from now. You'll look back and go, holy crap, I've accomplished a decent amount. Can you imagine if I do this for another 90 days? You need to follow the framework of radical accountability, which is you need to join other groups, mentorship groups. You need to find somebody out there who's a coach. You need to, number two, be relentlessly executing. If you can put those two together within the next 5 years, anybody listening to this can get into the marketing space and create their own business.
I'm sold, Jess.
Yeah, me too.
Gino, this has been absolutely wonderful today. Like, I feel like we could go on for a really long time. Like, I feel like there could be a whole sequel to this where we just talk about risk versus reward scenarios, and we just go through all our life histories together and tell stories. That would be the 11 o'clock midnight version of the podcast I've been talking about for a while, Making of a Marketer After Dark. So if we ever introduce that, Gino, we're going to hit you back up again. But this has been super wonderful. Gino Barbero, be sure to give him a follow on LinkedIn. And Gino, we're going to be following definitely from afar, because I love what I heard today and can't wait to just hear more about your stories and your advice as you present across digital channels.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate being on.
Thanks, Gino.
Thanks, Gino. Bye. So, Jess, I feel like this podcast, out of any, I feel like I got a really great pep talk from a family member. Like, Gino feels like family. Like, he comes in, he feels like your uncle, he feels like your cousin that's going to motivate you to be better. And I love that, because that's not, I don't know, when you think financial advisor, I'm thinking X's and O's. That's the first thought that probably pops in my head. And he probably knows this and why he tries to not be that. But that was one of the most human financial strategy conversations I think I've ever had.
Totally. Absolutely human-centered. I loved every moment of what just happened.
Yes. And a real big shout out to marketers. I love that he really hit on the marketing side of things about what you have to be in order to break through in these different spheres.
We're all marketers. It really comes down to that. We're all marketers and we're all sellers.
Yep. Yep, and that's something too. Even for our marketers, there's I'm in marketing, not salespeople. You are a seller to an extent. I don't know. I think it's just kind of right now, in our world, people have to decide, I guess, what percentage, like how far does your lever go this way or that way, or how much do you want it? And I think that's kind of like the values he's talking about right there. Like, I've always said I can do some sales work. I come from an agency background, but would you want me to do that? Is that where my strength and values are at? Like, ultimately, probably not. So, like, it's interesting. Like, I just think the conversation gives you a lot to think about.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he is very human centered. That is for sure. And he's designing things that put the human first, and just the talks about looking back at your origin story, your values, what is driving the beliefs and the way that you make decisions is so important. And if you can be curious about that, you can be so effective at whatever you do.
You know what I relate this to, and I think you'll know this world the best, Jess, is I feel like a lot of the more executive side of the room right now, from what at least I'm hearing from afar, is there's a lot of these executives that they're doing new things. They're prioritizing new products, new marketing lingo, AI, these new tools. And I think it's taking them so far off their values that if it's not bought in at the top, like your values aren't buying into your day to day, like that's something I feel like is cascading down to a lot of marketing language right now. I think what you try to solve in the work you do with executives is them by finding those passions, those values, and where do they find that in their day to day. So like him asking that felt very similar to a lot of the work that you do.
Definitely. And you have to factor in those external pressures, or what's happening in the environment as well. And that's why I put so much focus on feelings, and it's not like gushy or soft, as we may have heard before, but it's really true. If you can make those connections, you can generate those through lines based on the environment and what's happening in their mind.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about this before with CMOs, especially in this current climate. It's a short tenure, right, Andy?
Less than 3 years.
Yeah. Yes. So think about that. I mean, they're thinking about that. They may be thinking about that silently or quietly, but in every decision that they're making and assessing risk versus reward, or am I going to break through, or how far am I going to push the creativity? That's playing in the back of their mind.
Yeah. And I'll say, like, I know this, just I've seen it so many times, just if I can see any consistency of any marketing / workplace room I've been in, we all know the people who are very creative, very like want to do right, want to help everybody. They want to be the all-stars, but they're also the ones that will be the big pain in the butt for some people because they will question a lot of things, but it comes from a good place. Those are people who are usually trying to find the value of like how they bring it all together. I always say in the CMOs, this is like that type of personality. When those personalities all of a sudden get quiet out of nowhere, they will be out of that job in less than 6 months. And if they start saying yes to everything when they used to question a lot of things or like challenge the status quo, they will be out of that job in less than 6 months. There's no larger guarantee I've ever seen in my life. Just I've seen it over and over and over again because they're not yes people. And if you make them that, they've sacrificed their values to do that.
Mm-hmm. No disagreement here.
Mic drop.
We should run that test. Yes.
Yes. Well, I know that there is a lot coming up for you this week, Jess. So we'll be staying updated on that. I do have to ask, because a lot of people say not to do this. When you first start getting symptoms, do you use AI for any type of medical symptoms? Have you gone down that rabbit hole yet? Because if you put it into Google and Gemini pops up, they're going to give you a diagnosis really quick based on what you put in there.
I did not do it in the pre-stages, but this is what scared me. And we had this conversation with one of our previous guests. How quickly, from a health standpoint, AI has become my companion. So you best believe after I went to go to the doctor the first time, after my symptoms, came to the surface, I put everything into AI, to my companion, my co-pilot companion. And I mean, I've been doing it since April. So I've got
It's been learning.
Yes. And it's been wonderful. So that, I mean, I've been going in, it can be like a daily thing of, okay, at the stage that I'm at right now. And, they have all my health records. I mean, I'm sure the tech companies are loving this, but they have all my health records. They have all the doctor's notes, everything that was said. And I'll be like, okay, can I try to eat this food? Or can I try to drink this drink? I'm definitely only drinking water, period. So Andy, my love of matcha, that is
it's out for now.
Put on green tea. No more. I'm loving water. Hydration day, everyone. So drink up. And so but every day, just like, this is what's happening. Just inform me. Tell me some news. Tell me a way that I can approach. And it's been amazing too, like just getting ready for all the doctor's appointments. It's one step ahead of me to like ask this, do this. Like you want to go in trying to get this answer, or like here's where you can be more clear on the action plan.
Yeah.
So I'm loving AI for this experience.
No, it's I had one recently. So I went to my conference I always go to every year, Social Media Lima in Ohio this past week. Came back, my stomach felt a little off, and I was like, around a lot of people, whatever happened. So my AI search went through my history. It was explain the differences between food poisoning and stomach bug. And it had this big grid that came down. It was like, this is similar, this isn't. This is similar, this isn't. And because of that, I determined it was definitely stomach bug and not food poisoning. Just one of those like two-day things, sucks for 2 days, you're good right after it. But it actually told me not to use Pepto-Bismol. So AI worked against Pepto-Bismol because it wasn't a food-related issue. It was a virus that needed to cleanse through the system. So like some of these AIs could be working for the products. It could be working against them because we're starting to figure out what the telltale signs are a little bit earlier.
Definitely. Yes. And I will say too, it really does come down to the person and to the doctor as well. Because as I was going through my experience, I just based on a pre-existing condition I had, I was so convinced, it has to be that, or it's like tied to that. It's tied to that inflammation response. My family has never had a kidney stone.
I know. That's a weird one.
No way. No, it's not. It can't be a kidney stone. But my doctor, after like certain things happened, she was like, yes, you need to get a CT scan. We need to ensure that it's not the stone. My suspicion is that it is. And I'm like, no way. No. And she was right. So it does come down. I don't think AI, they could have laid out all the options, but
it couldn't have gotten you there though.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we're wishing you luck, Jess. Thanks again, Gino, for another wonderful discussion today. Took us into some new arenas, some welcome arenas. So we'll continue our marketing discussion as always as we go. But thank you all for listening, and shall be back soon. Bye.
Bye.